If you've heard about the IISCA and you're not quite sure when to use it or how it actually compares to a traditional FBA or functional analysis, this video is for you. Most clinicians don't have a clear framework for choosing between assessment methods. For a long time, the functional analysis was considered the gold standard, and it probably still is in many cases because it gives you a clear causal relationship between the behavior and its maintaining variables. But it also puts the learner through a process that can be stressful, and it still operates on the assumption that the behavior has just one primary function. The FBA is more practical in applied settings, but it can miss variables that a more comprehensive process would identify. The ISCA was developed by Dr. Greg Hanley and is a little different. It doesn't actually require you to observe the target behavior necessarily. It's interview informed, which means it starts with the people who know the learner best. And it tests a combination of maintaining variables rather than isolating them one at a time. I'll link to his work in the description if you want to take a closer look at what that process actually looks like. But today I'm going to give you a 5 variable framework for choosing which behavioral assessment is right for each situation. But first, let's look at an example that shows you exactly why this is so important. This is a fictional example that's based on a previous client from a colleague, and you might be able to relate to this situation. So let's talk about Marcus. He's a 6-year-old. He's receiving home-based ABA services, and his behaviors have remained consistently high for months, despite a comprehensive behavior plan that's being implemented with fidelity by the RBT. Marcus has what his caregiver describes as episodes. He rarely engages in just one behavior. It's actually a combination of yelling, running around the room, ripping whatever paper is nearby, and generally creating chaos. And once an episode starts, it's hard to bring him back. His BCBA did everything right when conducting the assessment and creating the behavior plan. She collected ABC data, analyzed the patterns, and the data showed that the behaviors were maintained by attention. The caregiver coming in, redirecting him back to where he was supposed to be, and trying to calm him down. And that pattern was consistent across multiple observations and across days. So the hypothesis was attention maintained behavior. The plan was written around that, and the RBT implemented it well. 2 months later, the episodes were still happening at pretty much the same rate. And that's something that we see more often than we'd like. But the problem isn't necessarily the interventions. It could be what the assessment was able to capture in the first place. ABC data is good at identifying patterns, and the pattern here was clear. What the ABC data didn't tell Marcus's BCBA was whether attention was the only thing maintaining those episodes or whether other variables were operating at the same time. And that's exactly where the IISCA can help. So in Marcus's case, the BCBA sat down with the people who know Marcus the best and asked structured questions about what his episodes actually look like, what seems to set them off, what the environment looks like when they happen, and most importantly, what things look like when Marcus doesn't engage in those behaviors. That interview brings out information that observation alone never would have captured. In Marcus's case, that conversation revealed 2 things the ABC data had missed entirely. The first came out almost by accident. The caregiver mentioned that some days were just harder than others, and she couldn't always predict why. When the BCBA asked more questions about those harder days and what they looked like, a pattern emerged. On laundry days, or days when Marcus's preferred clothing wasn't available, his mother would dress him in whatever was clean. Certain fabrics bothered him, and she knew this, and it usually was able to work around it. But it didn't always happen consistently enough for anyone to connect it to his behavior. That sensory discomfort had been a setting event the whole time, making him more reactive before a single demand was ever placed. The second was how the episodes ended. When the caregiver came in, she would redirect him back to the activity. And in the data, that looked like attention. She was present, she was engaging with him, and the behavior stopped. But what the data couldn't capture was that the redirect itself created a brief pause in the task. Marcus was getting his caregiver's attention and a momentary break from demands. And on the days when he was already uncomfortable in his clothing, that combination was exactly what his behavior was working toward. So now the BCBA had a much richer picture. This wasn't just attention maintained behavior. On harder days, Marcus was already uncomfortable before the session even started. And when the episodes happened, his behavior was getting him two things at once: his caregiver's attention and a brief break from the task. The sensory discomfort was setting the stage, and the synthesized contingency was maintaining the behavior. The IISCA then tested the exact combination, and the results were clear. When that synthesized contingency was present, the episodes stopped. When it wasn't, they continued. That's the difference. The FBA identified a pattern. The IISCA gave the team what they needed to actually help him. Choosing the right assessment directly shapes the quality of the plan you build. This is the kind of clinical reasoning we work through regularly inside the Master ABA Dojo, because knowing a framework is one thing, but applying it to a real case is completely different. In office hours, BCBAs bring cases exactly like Marcus, and we work through the variables together. If that's something you want access to, I'll link it in the description below. For now, let's walk through the 5 variables so you have the framework. Think about this less like a checklist and more like building a clinical picture. There's no single variable makes the decision. You're looking at all of them together. The first is severity. If the behavior is mild to moderate and the function seems relatively straightforward, a well-executed FBA is probably the right move. If you're looking at high intensity behavior, including self-injury, aggression, behavior that's been treated before without lasting results, that's when the IISCA becomes the better choice. So the second variable is treatment history. Is the current plan showing improvement in the target behaviors? If the behavior is highly variable or not trending in the direction you want, that's a signal that the behavior might be more complex than you originally thought. It doesn't automatically mean that the function is wrong, but it's a sign that your hypothesis might be incomplete. The third variable is function clarity. If your indirect assessment and your ABC data are pointing clearly in one direction and that pattern is consistent across settings and informants, your hypothesis is probably solid. But if the data are messy, contradictory, or you keep finding yourself writing attention and or escape, that's a sign that the function is more complex than a traditional FBA will capture effectively, and you should consider conducting an IISCA. The fourth variable is client profile. Consider the whole person. Do they have a complex history? Is social reinforcement hard to isolate? Are motivating operations changing frequently? The more complex the learning or reinforcement history, the more likely a synthesized contingency is driving the behavior. And the fifth is timeline. Is there urgency around this case? Is there a 30-day school deadline, a family in crisis, a placement at risk? If there's pressure to get a plan in place quickly, a well-executed FBA might be the more practical starting point, even if the IISCA would give you a richer information. And that's okay. These tools don't have to be mutually exclusive. You can use the FBA to get something in place now and come back to do the IISCA when there's more time to do it. When you look at all 5 together, severity, treatment history, function clarity, client profile, and timeline, you have your answer. Choosing the right assessment directly shapes the quality of the plan you build and the outcomes your client experiences. A solid functional hypothesis gives you something real to work with. An incomplete one means you're building on a foundation that was never quite right. If you want to go deeper on how to take your assessment data and build a treatment plan that's compassionate, assent-based, and grounded in the science, I have a video that picks up exactly where this one ends, and I'll link to it here. If you want a free resource to support that process, the Assent-Based Practice Toolkit is linked in the description below.